Ladies and gentlemen, fellow South Australians, we're now going to move to a very exciting part of our program, and I'd like to introduce to you Uncle Jack.
Hello.
Jack Charles really doesn't need any introduction. He has a program, there's a short screed about Uncle Jack, but I thought we won't read too much about him, we just have a yarn with him. As you know, Jack, thank you very much for joining us here today, and we're looking very much forward to you speaking to us in the 11th anniversary, of the apology.
The 11th anniversary.
Yeah.
That's
Where were
big.
you 11
thank
years
you very
ago?
much for you mob for inviting me over here, and thank you very much for the governor for his words. I too, always, wherever I am, like to pay my respects to the traditional owner of the Gunner people. So, as a Boonwurrung man, Jaja Burrung, and Wiradjuri man from in the Far East, here I am in your country, and thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Uncle Jack, you have an amazing history. You were stolen around from...
1943.
Yeah, and you're 75, turning 76 soon. That's an amazing time that you've been on a journey of rediscovering and reconnecting with yourself and your community. Can you tell us your impressions of what happened 11 years ago on the 13th of February? Do you know, where were you?
I remember it well. I was in Melbourne, and I had sent my sister, my last surviving known sister, up to Canberra, and she had worked with the Galliamble, the Windjura-Lupna Drug and Alcohol Centre in St Kilda. So it was appropriate for her to go up. I truly, like everybody else, was quite enamoured of the notion that Australia apologises to us. And it happened to be Mr Rudd, and from Mr Rudd we got the apology, and we truly accepted it. It was a big, relief in some way for many of us that the Australian psyche is on the way to beginning to, make amends. First you got to apologise. Now, being an old cat burglar like myself, and with the lived experiences, everybody knew my story from the documentary Bastardy, and in my play Jack Charles versus the Crown, I made apologies to all those I stole from in the course of that play.
Yeah.
To all those I disappointed and abused their trust. So it's a good thing that Australia has done this, and we look forward to it, because along with an apology comes some kind of reconciliation. We're moving towards being reconciled, but there is so much work to do in that movement towards reconciliation.
There certainly is, and you're very much an amazing ambassador as a survivor of the stolen generation. You talked about Bastardy, the book and the short video made around that, that was really brutally honest, and you were honest about your past, the pain, the hurt, your healing, the process of healing and reconnection with the community. Can you share with us some of that account on your journey?
Well, it was very strange. I just come down from Sydney a year after the Olympics, down to Melbourne, homeless, and a young fella came up and asked me would I mind him following me around. He's straight out of RMIT School of making movies and documentaries. And I permitted him him and his lady love with her microphone to record my life on the streets, follow me around. And I did say to him, because I was heavily drugged up, and I did say, well, look, I'm due for a whack, come and record that. So invariably during the course of our engagement over a period of 7 years or 8 years, with me still doing 1-year jail sentences in between, 2 of them, we eventually came to finish Bastardy, the documentary. And I hadn't actually intended to out myself in so many different ways, but it's been a blessing because I get, so many people had seen, black and white, had seen their own stories unfold in the documentary Bastardy. And we called it Bastardy because I lived a life of buggery and bastardy in the Box Hill Boys' Home, simply put.
Yeah, because you go into that story, you talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of your journey, and yet you've got all the ugly experiences, and yet you've got this, from what having met you, you have this amazing generosity and capacity to put people at ease, and you're clearly contributing to the process of the next stage of the apology and the journey that all Australia is on, trying to understand what actually happened.
Yes, I believe it's up to us elders to educate and inform in whatever fashion we can. I'm in that unique position where I love going to prisons. I'm not overly institutionalised, mind you, but I like going back to the neck to talk to those stragglers that struggle in our prison system. I love going to the youth detention centres. So I'm putting it out there that Victoria, Daniel Andrews has made his amends, his reconcilement, process of allowing Indigenous people to go into our prison system and start sharing the journey. And of course, I have a profile, Archie Roach, so I joined the Archie Roach Foundation to be his special roving ambassador.
Let's talk a bit more about that. Because Archie Roach, one of your brother, clearly shared the journey of being stolen. You're an ambassador to that, so let's talk a bit more about that, because that's really about that journey of healing and reconnecting with people that are clearly hurt and are in our prisons, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, we take our leave from, Mama Shirl from up in Sydney way back, and there's quite a few other names, but they escape me now. I can learn lines, but sometimes a lot of names, escape me. But I've learned from these people that first started pushing the ideals along the 1938 meeting up in Sydney with all the elders of the day to get the government to start seriously thinking about putting in place education programs, even in prisons and etc. So we've come a long way, but that's what I do now,
And you're a strong advocate for educational programs and educating all Australia about that dark time in our history, but to demonstrate as a survivor that we can heal and we must learn from the past.
Yes, and and I've realised that Archie Roach has getting on now. He doesn't get into the prison system as much as I do nowadays. I'm blessed that the prison system allows me to go back into youth detention centres and also adult prisons. And there we're still developing a program. It's only young. Daniel Andrews has thrown a lot of money into the extraordinary numbers, the rising numbers of young ones and older ones in our prison systems. And that's so we have a long way to go.
Still, because we have increasing numbers of our people, unfortunately, in youth detention.
Yes.
We have more of our women in jails than ever before.
So, yes.
And we need to stem that.
I think the community should take a little bit more responsibility here, that we need safe houses for the young ones to come out towards. We need elders with the lived experiences to say the right kind of words, the words that would automatically tweak, a responsibility of understanding and cognitive understanding of what lies ahead when they get out. So that's where I'm aiming at. What are you going to do when you get out?
Yeah.
Where are you going to go, you know? Are you black enough, or are you Somalian enough, or are you white enough to knock back the welcome home whack when you go home? You know, this is my reasoning for going into prisons, to strengthen to gird their loins against the onslaught of temptations. I really say, use your Aboriginality, young man. Use the power of your indigenous. Use the power of your forefathers or forebearers from the Sudan or from the African countries. Use your power as simply a white person, as a white Australian, to move on ahead, because it's not right for you to be in prison. So that's my journey. That's part of what I do.
Well done. And Uncle Jack's going to visit one of our detention centres for youth after.
That's going to be exciting to be in a youth detention centre over here and see.
Because you've got that clear message for young people, but for all people that have suffered trauma, as the post-colonial impact upon us, and you continue to be that leading light that you talk about with the Archie Roach Foundation. Can you share a bit about how you first met Archie in Gertrude Street? Two brothers looking for family and looking for connections.
We met in the Builders Arms, and I was just unleashed from being a Borstal boy, from the bonds of being a ward of the state, and I made a second attempt to come into Melbourne, into Collingwood Fitzroy, once I left my foster family. I disappointed my foster family because I inappropriately went into Collingwood Fitzroy, and because I heard from the boys at work that there were a lot of black fellas over there, and they said, "You should go and see them, Jackie. A lot of black fellas over there. Bet you got family amongst them." And certainly, no sooner had I jumped off that tram when I was accosted by an old black fella who accused me of being Blanchy Charles's boy. So consequently, the penny dropped.
Yeah.
I knew I had family, but he ushered me into this pub, and most people came up to me, aunties and uncles. They were saying, "I'm your auntie, I'm your uncle, I'm a cousin of yours." So I go back to Mrs. Murphy, Mum, my foster mum, and I say, "Joy, oh joy, Mum, I just found Mum." But, oh no, such luck, she wrangles the story out of me, very angry and completely pissed off that, a third of my pay packet was opened. And, I so overwhelmed with these fellas' beery hugs and kisses, I dove into that pay packet.
You shared.
And shared it, and had a lemon squash myself. I didn't drink, that was great to be able to tell it, but it put me in prison. It put me in detention that very night.
For hanging out with the black fellas. In Gertrude Street.
So when I go back the second time into Collingwood Fitzroy, I meet up with Archie. I don't know who he is. He wasn't a singer-song man then. He was just a drinker up Charcoal Lane, and that like me. We were drinking mother's milk and a lot of grog and etc. So he asked me what I did, I said, "Oh, well, I rob houses, mate, So that was our first meeting, and Archie recalls that fondly.
He said he was the first cat burglar.
Well,
that he met.
Yeah, well,
A big note in yourself there.
Yeah, now I'm full of it. I call it rent collecting. Those mansions are on Bunurong country, my mum's land. But of course, I wouldn't use that in the court of law. I'd be given another 5 years to wake up to myself.
But you picked some of the best homes.
I did pick some of the best homes, yes. And many of them came and saw Bastardy, the documentary.
Yes.
And they've engaged with me.
Yes.
Retired CIU inspectors came and spoke to me. They loved the story of a reformed, rehabilitated character, especially the second time around after seeing Bastardy in the struggles imposed upon me, or I imposed upon myself. Jack Charles versus the Crown was a wonderful thing for me to undertake. It followed Bastardy. If we were going to do Jack Charles versus the Crown, we always liked to show the documentary Bastardy, because it was the documentary that showed how powerless I'd become against the pulling power of the white powders at that time, for a long time, since 1973. So I gave it up when I turned 60. Everything turned around when I turned 60. I finished off the documentary and finished off a period of jail time, and I came out intentionally to be Collingwood Smith Street's, my own community's self-proclaimed featherfoot Kadacha man lawman. You know, an old thief, you know, thinking himself that he could be the leading black light in his own community. Well, I am that. You know, I do have a lot of people. Thank you. But I'm chuffed that I'm in that unique position that I can be the shoulder to cry on, the person to go to have a bitch against and to talk about the system. And I have my words of counsel on that. The idea that we are the stolen generation. When we left our institutions, we had to counsel our own way. There was no counselling. So it was many of us were led down the wrong path. We're very impressionable young people at 15, it's up there after you leave the home, easily conned by for the comrades from the institution itself. And so that led me onto a life of crime.
Yeah, because you're left to your own devices.
Yeah. But, you know, gratefully I stuck fat with my work as a glass beveller. My boss bailed me out of Tirana.
And they were impressed with you, being this little black fella which they got to know.
He used to always bring around his mates around to meet the little black fella, little Aboriginal boy working in the making mirrors section of the glass bevelling factory. And at one time, ladies and gentlemen, he brought around this fella and he said, "Jack, I want you to meet a mate of mine. Don Bradman, meet Jack Charles." So at 15, I shook the hand of the great Donald Bradman, never realising who he was, you know. And then years later, on my second appearance in the ABC, I get to play in a series called Behind the Legend. Eddie Gilbert, the hot-shot fast bowler who bowled that great Donald Bradman out twice for a duck. I couldn't bowl for nuts. I'm only 2 centimetres short of 5 foot. I don't look tall. I didn't look tall on the rushes that I saw, so it showed on television and I never watched it. You know, I have an aversion to watching myself and hearing myself, but I've come to realise that people see me in a different light and hear me in a different light than I see myself and hear myself.
You're described as the grandfather of Aboriginal theatre.
Yes, Bob Mazza and myself. Yeah.
Talk about Uncle Bob.
Oh, Bob, bless him. You know, he's gone now, Bob. But you know, his memory lives on. I was shoved out from the new theatre where I did 7 years amateur work, commonly called a pig theatre. They grabbed me from the Gladys Nichols Hostel in Cunningham Street, Northcote, to be in a play, Lorraine Hansberry's A Raisin in the Sun. And it was a full Negro cast. They wanted me to play a Negro, you know. The irony is I had to black up like the white actors, and that, you know, to look like them, you know. But the point is, after that, the Australian industry of television, movie making, and etc., had to realise that we can't black up actors anymore to play Aboriginal people, and that we have to use the real McCoy. And there was only Bob and me at the time, but so I was cast inappropriately, like Eddie Gilbert, the hot-shot fast bowler. That was inappropriate, but there was nobody else, you know. And ABC wouldn't black anybody taller if they weren't Aboriginal.
Yeah. So that and you love stage more than film.
Yeah.
Is that right? What do you like?
I like the stage because you eyeball the people, even though the lights on you and you can't really see them. But at the opportunity when after the show and I'm talking to people in the foyer, then I get an understanding and they get an understanding of performing when I did Jack Charles versus the Crown. That's been a blessing for me. It's got me overseas, got me into the mother country, in the Barbican. That's where we first started, 2012. You know, the irony is of being uniquely in that place and where Warner Brothers were looking for somebody my vintage to play the chief of the tribe protecting the Fairy Kingdom from Hugh Jackman's marauding pirates. And I was in town at the time, and it's pretty well known in the industry across the nation. Looks like it's travelled overseas that you can't. I don't allow me to audition. I don't like auditioning. I'm only 2 centimetres short of 5 foot, so I fear rejection. And so I never audition now. Having auditioned many years ago and not got the jobs, I was too, angry with that. And so nowadays I don't audition.
But you've got a really iconic face, and you're really well known because one of the places that you were visiting one evening, and they came home early and they surprised you.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Well, I'll be writing this in my book, Jack Charles, a born-again blackfella. So I have an Islander woman, Namilla Benson, being my ghostwriter from Triple R Radio National. She's had to forget her radio jobs because it's a full-time job writing my story. Next year it'll be out, and we've been on that journey for a long time. But for reconciliation, my job is to help share the journey of the past, and with the young ones, get them to start seriously thinking about researching their own journey of discovery of who they think they are. Because from that, it may very well lead many onto a path of redemption, and also more clarity of mind comes with this researching into your own journey, and you get to see, things add up for you.
Uncle Jack, you're clearly a survivor. I don't think you've ever been a victim. That was your headset. What do you credit to your resilience, your strength of character, and how you reconnected with the community? So, and your message to fellow stolen generations?
Well, I find it strange that I got a lot of benefit from having, studied Bible class and gone through the Box Hill Boys Home with the Salvos, and I like the stories of the Bible. I was so whitewashed at one time that I wanted to be the donkey carrying Jesus across the palm leaves. That's how far I'd gone. But I took message from that. Our law, Aboriginal law and white law are very similar. But with Aboriginal law, you can't plead the fifth. You can't plead, that there's a cause and effect or anything like that. In Aboriginal law, you have to pay the price. You knew the crime, you have to pay the price, and that. And so that's what I'm trying to instill into the young ones, to reconcile with their past. I couldn't ever undertake this journey unless inside that last jail sentence, a month before I left, having completed the Murray program from Auntie Lorraine Treaters, which did, incredibly tweak my conscience, my indigeneity, and that's why I left that jail, believing myself that I could be. You have to be full of it sometimes, but I am JC, Jack Charles, and perhaps I am the second coming. And why not?
Yeah.
The original one was brown too.
And that's going to be your next book. Ladies and gentlemen, can you please thank Uncle? We could spend, as you know, hours with you. You are truly an inspiration to our people, and we celebrate your success and your contribution. You are certainly a citizen of humanity. You're a deadly black man of principle, and you've got such great concern for others. Uncle Jack, thank you very much for being with us.
Voila.